pulls me back inside. Don't let me fade, don't let me stray. Save me from thinking my life away. Storms may rise, but I won't fall. Your light breaks through it all. Thinking my life away. Hold me near. With your voice, the doubt disappears. Promise me love, promise to stay. Keep me from thinking my life away.
Okay, good day, distinguished professional colleagues, friends, and members of the Association of Elite Human Resources Professionals. I want to welcome you once again to this learning session. My name is Francis Edem. And I'm delighted to welcome you to another special learning session proudly hosted by AHRP. I see that we have people joining from all over Nigeria. I see people from Kwara, from Lagos, from Ijebu-Ode, from Port Harcourt. If you're just joining, please keep letting us know where you're joining from. And in case you have anybody who is supposed to be here and who is not yet on, please just send a message to the person. Nobody should be missing this session. As always, our sessions are designed to equip and inspire us, help HR professionals connect across industries and across borders. And today's edition promises to be both insightful and transformative. This one is our final session, or one of our final sessions for our 2025 learning calendar. And hey, what a journey it has been so far, from impactful learning experiences to thought-provoking conversations. The AHRP continues to raise the bar for professional excellence within the HR community. Before we go on, I'd like to just bring up this announcement. As we approach the end of the year, we're excited to let you know that we are hosting our first AEHRP end of year party. I thought I would see somebody popping something in the chat box there. So it's happening live on Saturday, November 29, 2025 at Dr. Oluyomi Abayomi Phoenix Park, Opebi, Ikeja, Lagos. Registration is currently open and spaces are limited. So please, there's a registration link in the chat box, or if you can scan the barcode that is up right now, please do so. Make sure that you're registering and paying. It's a flat fee of 15,000 Naira for both members and non-members. So expect that everyone here will be there. I'd like to see you. I'll be excited to catch up with a lot of us at that exciting event. There's going to be lots of fun, right? So I trust that you would have fun there, good music, drinks, there'll be laughter, bonding moments, unforgettable memories that we are set to present to us. So I'd like every one person to make sure that you are clicking on the link or clicking on the barcode and registering for this event. Okay, to the business of today. I like to, just before we go into the session for today, take us back through an overview of the AHRP and what we stand for, especially for those who are just joining us for the first time, AHRP is the Association of Elite Human Resources Professionals and is anchored on the strong foundation and core values of credibility, authenticity, responsibility, resilience, integrity, empathy, and agility. These values are the heart of our community and guides the principles that shape every initiatives, every conversation, and every connection within the AHRP family. Our vision is to be the go-to source of competent human resources professionals who redefine the practice. I'll take that again so that it sticks with somebody. Our vision is to be the go-to source of competent human resources professionals who redefine the practice. And our mission, as you would also see on the screen, is to create value for human resources professionals and organizations through coaching, mentoring, research-based learning, and capacity development program, exactly why we are here today. So in line with this mission, there are two cardinal mandates that we have as AHRP members. One, to bridge the communal gap that exists between human resource professionals and different cadres. So, and the second one is to serve as a platform for learning capacity development, knowledge acquisition, and experience sharing. These are the cardinal mandates of the AHRP Professional Association, and this is exactly why we are here today. So now to the moment we've all been waiting for. Today we are taking on a very, very important subject matter, beyond automation, cultivating human-centric skills for sustainable success in the age of AI. As artificial intelligence continues to reshape the world of work, the demand for human-centric skills, empathy, creativity, emotional intelligence, adaptability has never been more critical. And to lead us through this important conversation today, we have a dynamic facilitator, an experienced HR leader, a proud member of the AHRP family, Idoni George Amahian, MCIPM. This session, again, as many of our sessions are, have been approved for 3 general recertification credits units with HR Certification Institute, HRCI, and can also be used for CIPM HR Practitioner's License, for renewals, for membership upgrade. And so this is not just a knowledge sharing session, it's actually a value that you can take to the bank. And so we're going to be having the 2 sessions here. Idoni is going to take us for 60 minutes, and then we'll have 30 minutes for questions and answers. When we get to the question and answer session, you can use the raise hand feature to ask your questions. And even while the sessions are ongoing, you can just scribble down your questions, and you can also put them up in the chat box. Before we get Idoni in on board to take us further, I'd like us to just watch this introduction and as we welcome him on board.
Introducing Idoni George Amahian. Idoni George Amahian is an accomplished human resources leader, corporate trainer, and digital transformation strategist with over 18 years of cross-industry experience spanning consulting, FMCG, manufacturing, security, logistics, and IT. As Vice President, Organizational Development at Reliance Infosystems, a Tier 1 Microsoft Cloud Solutions partner operating in 15 countries, he drives initiatives that integrate human capital strategy with technology, enabling businesses to achieve their digital transformation goals. Specializing in AI-driven HR systems, data analytics, and cloud-based solutions, Idoni has led impactful projects in talent management, organizational design, performance management, and learning development. embedding automation and digital tools to enhance efficiency and workforce agility. He holds advanced degrees in industrial and labor relations and public administration, alongside multiple Microsoft certifications. A full member of CIPM and associate member of NITAD, Idoni is also a board trustee of AEHRP and a respected thought leader who advocates for the fusion of people, processes, and technology to shape the future of work. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with a warm round of applause, Idoni George Amahian.
I thought I would see a lot of emojis, a lot of clapping on the chat box. Ladies and
Good
gentlemen,
evening.
please join me.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good morning. It's my pleasure to be holding the podium this evening to talk about a very critical area I'm passionate about, that is digital transformation and AI. Okay. So this section is particularly very, very apt because we are so much immersed in an area in the what we call the digital space, the digital AI-enabled space right now, where AI is redefining how we work, how we do everything. In my role at Reliance Infosystems, and we are living in a very transformative era, the age of AI, which represents both monumental opportunity and also significant challenges. Today, we will journey into beyond automation, cultivating human-centric skills for sustainable success in the age of AI. We will explore these most critical assets for sustainable success in this uniquely human skill. So this conversation is especially crucial for us, particularly here in Nigeria, as we are positioned to leapfrog development stages if we navigate this transformation with wisdom and foresight. The agenda for today's conversation, we start by us grounding ourselves in the current AI landscape, particularly here in Africa and Nigeria. Then we will tackle a critical question, that is how AI is forcing us to rethink the very nature of expertise and value. The core of our talk will focus on the essential human shifts from providing answers to exercising judgment. Then we will bring this to life with real-life case studies from Nigeria industries before I will now introduce a practical four-step framework that will help us cultivate these skills. We will then see how technology can be an ally in this human endeavor, leading us to a call to action before we conclude with Q&A. Let's dive in. So, as I earlier mentioned, the AI revolution is a current reality that is shaping the entire world. The data is compelling for every one of us to see. The AI market, particularly for Africa, is expected to grow by over 500% by the year 2030. But I want to be very clear, this is not just another wave of automation like we have seen in the past. What we are seeing is a fundamental restructuring of knowledge itself. Information that was once locked up in specialized databases or in the mind of highly paid experts, right, is now very much accessible to nearly everyone. Everyone can use ChatGPT. With a prompt, you are given, or you are served with a whole lot of insight, a whole lot of data that is beyond human comprehension. So this set the stage for a dramatic shift in how we think about work and value. So, CEO, in one of the forums I attended recently, a CEO asked the question, and the question was, if my junior analysts can get the same AI-generated insights as my senior strategists, why am I paying for expertise? I repeat the question. If my junior analyst can get the same AI-generated insights as my senior strategist, why am I paying for expertise? I'm sure many of us are equally, we are equally asking ourselves this question, because everybody is having access to the same information. We have several AI tools at our disposal. We have Gemini, we have Perplexity, we have Poe, we have DeepSeek, several of them, thousands actually, because every day new model keep coming out. And right now, we are now moving from just generative or conversational AI to a situation where we actually create agents, what we call the age of agentics, where you create special agents that will solve some specific questions or issues. So this question that I just asked cut to the heart of change which we are facing presently. So we are in an era of so much unprecedented democratization of knowledge. With AI, for example, a startup founder in Lagos can now access strategic framework that once required a team of highly paid consultants to execute. So this is the paradox of abundant knowledge, because everyone can get the answer. The answer itself is no longer the source of value. The value then shifts from the content to the context. I repeat, because everyone can get the answer itself is no longer the source of value. The value then shifts from the content to the context. So organizations that misunderstand this risk overpaying for expertise that is no longer unique, while at the same time failing to invest in the human capability that are now more critical than ever. So with any profound technological shifts, the impact of AI on our workforce is what we call a dual narrative. On one hand, the opportunities are very much immense. Then AI can take over the mundane, repetitive task that drain our energy, freeing us to focus on strategy, innovation, and connecting with customers. It is creating new opportunities with our customers, exciting new job roles that did not exist a decade ago. And it's also providing us with much needed insights for enhanced decision making. Because between the last 3 years that ChatGPT revolutionized the AI landscape, the amount of data that is being mined between that time till now is more than what has been mined in over 20 years. So there is enormous data. And because of this enormous data, people that are mindful, that want to make enhanced decisions, have this data readily available to them with a click of a mouse. So I also talked about the challenges that we are also facing. So we must face these challenges head on, because where there are opportunities, there are also challenges. One critical area that we need to be wary of is the issue of job displacement. Yes, job displacement. There will be job displacement, particularly in roles defined by routine. So this now creates an urgent need to address a widening gap. So furthermore, we must be vigilant about the risk of bias, because studies have shown that if AI is trained on biased data, it can amplify inequality, because AI relies on data, garbage in, garbage out. So it now depends on the mindset, the pedestrian, where the person that is feeding in data, the mindset of that person lies. If the person is such that that as a bit or that has some biases, then it will definitely reflect in the data that that individual feeds to the AI model he or she is training. So this can, like I said, this can amplify inequality, which could disproportionately affect women and people of lower race, or lower, those people that are disadvantaged within the workforce. So our role as leaders is actually to maximize the opportunities while also proactively mitigating this risk. So I will recommend us to see a movie, a very interesting movie. The name of the movie is called Coded Bias. You can write it down, Coded Bias. It is a documentary that explores gender and racial biases in artificial intelligence. Write it down, Coded Bias. It's a very interesting movie on how biases can impact the quality of information you get from AI. So moving on. So the question is, where does human value lies in the scheme of things? Where does human value lies in this whole scheme? Because we have seen tremendous transformation. We must shift our focus in three critical ways. Three critical ways. And these are the three transformation, what we call the three transformation of value, because we are moving from beyond transformation, we are now moving from answers to judgment. So where does human value lies now? The answer is it has transformed. So we must shift our focus in three critical ways. The first is for us to move from providing answers to asking the question. AI is brilliant at answering what we ask, but the most valuable experts are those who can identify the unasked questions and explore the white spaces not yet in any training data. Because most of these AI models are trained based on the information or data they are fed or they are fed. Because if we are to ask the critical questions we should be asking are those questions that we see, or which which we can call maybe the unknown unknowns. Yes, the unknown unknown. The second is that we move from assessing information to actually exercising judgments. And AI can synthesize 1 million data points to recommend a strategy, but it can never bear the weight of the consequences. So that is accountability. That accountability still remains entirely human. That is the truth. The accountability still remains entirely human. And that is why in every audit AI model, you are always given a disclaimer that AI might be wrong. The answers is giving you might be wrong. So it's for you now as human to exercise the best judgment in the utilization of the outputs you get from this AI model. So we as experts are paid to make decisions when the stakes are real. So this gap between intelligence and responsibility is where human judgment becomes increasingly irreplaceable. Irreplaceable. So the third is we must move from viewing knowledge as static to navigating it as something liquid. Expertise is no longer a library of facts in your head. It is the skill of shaping and applying dynamic knowledge to specific contexts of the moment. I repeat, expertise is no longer a library of facts in your head. It is the skill of shaping and applying dynamic knowledge to the specific context of the moment. So when we look at this diagram, I mentioned that there are three transformations of value. That is, ask better questions. That is, finding the unknown and unknowns. Then you now apply the human judgment. That is, bearing the responsibility for the consequences. Because if you take our mind back to the question that I asked at the beginning of this conversation, we said if the junior analyst is having access to the same ChatGPT, the Gemini, and the Perplexity of this world as my senior strategist, why do I have to pay? Because you and I know that as HRO professionals that we pay for expertise. So if this expertise, in quotes, has become so democratized, why do I have to pay excessively for that? When we pay for expertise, we are actually paying people to exercise responsibility and take consequences for their action. That is accountability. So we make strategic decisions by creating novel solutions in real time. Yes, making strategic decisions by creating novel solutions in real time. So we are going to explore some case studies. We are going to explore some case studies that is in the use of judgment, strategic judgment in action. The first one is with SMART, particularly in the agricultural sector. Now, SMART is a Nigeria agri-tech company that uses artificial intelligence, drones, and satellite data to provide smart farming solutions for African farmers. Its technology helps farmers to make data-driven decisions to improve on crop yields, increase efficiency, and also promote sustainability. The AI provides the information. For example, you might have maybe at any point in time, the AI giving you an output that says the soil moisture in this quadrant is like 40%. A novice farmer might just turn on the water because the moisture is low. He wants to increase the moisture content to maybe 70 or 80%. And the only way he can do that is by turning on the water to increase the moisture content in the soil. But the expert farmer exercises judgment. They combine that data they've received from the solution with their deep contextual knowledge. Maybe, for example, the humidity in the air, the slight coil of the leaf, and make a much wiser decision. They are also asking a better question. Instead of just asking for a data point, they are asking a strategic question that the AI cannot answer alone. What is the most efficient strategy right now? That is the new expertise, which only the human can exercise. Why AI give us information? The farmer experiences provide the wisdom to use it more efficiently and effectively. So, moving on, we now explore case study 2. That is AI in Nigeria healthcare, which also speaks about accountability in action. So the impact of AI in healthcare is also profoundly human. Consider the incredible work of Ubenwa. Now, Ubenwa is a tech company that is led by a Nigerian called Charles Onu. He's based in Montreal, Canada. So what they have created is an AI that can detect signs of birth aphasia just by analyzing the sound of a baby cry. Birth aphasia for us is a medical condition where a newborn does not get enough oxygen before, during, or after birth, which can harm the brain and other organs. So what this technology have done is that over the years, they have collected samples of baby cry, and they've done analysis because they believe that there are some hidden truths in some of these cry if you analyze them. So they've amassed so much data and they've done critical analysis to uncover some of the hidden truths in some of these cries from the baby. And what they've done is to create a solution called Ubenwa that helps analyze the cry of a newborn and critically evaluate and bring out if there are any hidden medical conditions or underlying illnesses in that newborn. And this technology has been a game changer and is still being a game changer, particularly for early diagnosis. So the technology itself does not just provide care. The AI provides the data point. It is the doctor who must use this or use their medical judgment to confirm the diagnosis. And it is the nurse who must sit with the worried patient and explain the situation with profound empathy and communication. The AI is a powerful tool, but it is the human touch that actually delivers the care. The doctor bears the accountability for the final diagnosis. They take on the responsibility for the treatment part and for communicating with the family, because at that critical situation, what you need to exercise a high level of empathy, right? A high level of empathy, and only human can exercise this innate quality. So the AI has intelligence, but the doctor has responsibility. That gap is where the human value is most profound. So technology can suggest a diagnosis, but the physician alone bears the weight of making life-altering decisions and communicating them with compassion. Now, I also have another example. As an independent consultant, I've had some interactions with Tri-State Healthcare System. Now, Tri-State Healthcare System is in the forefront of cardiovascular intervention in Nigeria. Before now, when you have any issues that has to do with heart surgery, the most viable option has always been to fly the patient abroad. With increased technology and the human expertise, this organization, Tri-State, has been able to perform open heart surgery with a technique they call minimally invasive techniques. Rather than what minimally means is that instead of opening up the heart wide, they minimally insert, they just cut the patient a little, that gives them access to the heart, where whatever intervention they need to do, they do it without much stress. And with these techniques, they've been able to achieve a situation whereby instead of for a normal open heart surgery, what is required is like 30 pints of blood. But with these techniques, they use just 2. And because the opening is minimal, the healing process is also very, very fast. And they've also been able to achieve 96% success rate out of the over 700 open heart surgery that they have performed since setting up intervention centers in Nigeria. So this is profound. In this case, what we normally say is that we have technology. Technology, is being powered by AI. Everything is now empowered by human, because that critical skill and expertise which only human can possess is what empowers the entire team. Now, case study number 3, which is AI in customer service. This is where we'll bring to light that sentence or that statement we made earlier. That is the navigating the liquid situation. Many of us have probably interacted with an AI without even realizing it. Take, for example, the MTN chatbot, Ziggy. Ziggy is very, very brilliant at what it does, answering thousands of routine questions every hour, instantly and also accurately. But what happens when you have a truly complex and frustrating problem? That is when that is when the whole situation gets escalated to a human agent. By automating the simple, what MTN has done is that they have elevated the role of the human agents. They are no longer just information providers. They are now expert problem solvers. They are the one who uses the real emotional intelligence to calm a frustrated customer and find solution, thereby reinforcing the customer's loyalty in a way no chatbot ever could. Their value is in navigating the ambiguity of the situation, exercising judgment on how to handle the customer frustration, and crafting a solution that doesn't just exist in any manual. That is the new, more valuable form of expertise. Now, if you look at your screen, you will see the difference between the knowledge approaches, that is the static, and the liquid. For example, you have predetermined questions and predetermined answers. That is why it's called static knowledge, which AI handles effectively. You might ask the question, what is my data balance? Or how do I activate a data plan? What are the latest promotions? How do I check my airtime? How do I port my numbers, right? These are cliches. These are questions that AI handles very, very effectively and efficiently. Now, we will now look at the liquid knowledge, which only the humans can do, because I mentioned earlier that once a situation becomes too difficult for the chatbots to handle, then you are now transferred to the human who now takes over. For example, a customer might say, my data is gone again. This is the 3rd time this week. I am so frustrated. Now, the agent will respond, I understand your frustration. Now, let's look deeper. Are you using any particular app when this happens? Now, the customer might respond, now that you have mentioned it, it is when my son borrowed my phone for YouTube. Now, the agent might say, oh, let us create a custom data budgeting solution for you and your family. And that is why you have MTN, they have different plans that speak. You have the social media plan, you have the YouTube plan, you have everything. Now, what we are trying to say here is that AI handles what we know. Humans handle what we do not know, we don't know. I repeat, AI handles what we know. Humans handles what we do not know, we don't know. Now, moving on. Let's study number 4. That is AI in the banking sector, the judgment layer. Our banking sector provides a final, clear example. AI provides the information layer, flagging transactions, answering basic queries, but it is the human that provides the crucial judgment layer on top of that. Now, for example, the fraud analyst is accountable for the decision, for example, to freeze an account when maybe some fraudulent transactions are detected. And a great relationship manager also demonstrates their value by giving answers. But by asking the right questions, what they do is that they transform a simple query about an investment into a deep conversation about goal and legacy. Let's say, for example, you go to a bank, right? And you ask the question. A client, for example, might ask, should I invest in XYZ? Now, an expert human advisor might ask, what are your long-term family goals? How or what is your risk tolerance? That is talking about the risk appetite. And you know that the level of risk humans can take is dependent on their age. Somebody that is much, much younger can take a very high risk. And when it comes to investment with high risk also yield highly, then while investment with low risk also yield lowly. So depending on your risk tolerance and your risk appetite, it will now depend, that will now reflect on what you are able to get. Now, with a seasoned and expert advisor, by asking this critical question, he's able to advise the client in order to provide wisdom, not just information. So the most valuable banking professionals are not those who know the most data points. They are actually those who can contextualize data into meaningful client stories. So by engaging in deep conversation about goals and legacy, that is a high level of contextual understanding, and AI cannot replicate this. There is no AI at the moment that can replicate this. Now, after we've seen all the examples that I have given above, the question now becomes, how do we intentionally and systematically build this critical human skill in our organization? How do we build these skills? This is something that can never be left to chance. It requires a deliberate strategy. Here we have a simple 4-step path framework that any organization can adopt. The first one is identify. Second one is develop, deploy, and nurture. First, we must identify the specific skills our business needs to succeed alongside AI. Whether we like it or not, we are already working with AI. The second is that we must create a targeted program to develop those skills in our workforce. And the third is often the missing piece. That is, we must consciously deploy these skills by redefining jobs and workflow. And finally, we must nurture a corporate culture that value reward and also sustain these human-centric skills over the long run. So in the next few slides, we will now dive deeper into each of these crucial 4-step model or framework, as the case may be. Like I mentioned earlier, the first one is in this strategic framework is to identify. Now, we cannot build a future-ready workforce if we do not have a clear blueprint of what it actually looks like. No, this goes far beyond the simplistic fear of, for example, which job will be replaced, and move into what we call the strategic questions, which is which human skill is required to create the most value alongside our AI capability. Now, if I am to digress a little, if I am to ask us here now, how many of us have AI adoption strategy or AI policy within our organization, I'm sure that over 95% of us do not even see the need to craft a policy around AI adoption. We'll say, okay, after all, we are no longer, whether we like it or not, our staff, whether our organization has adopted AI into its workflow or not, the truth of the matter is that we are already using AI. When a staff uses ChatGPT, Gemini, and what have you to do one or two things in the office, they've already unconsciously brought the AI culture into our organization. And except you have a framework that guides the use of this AI, what you are inevitably doing is that you are setting yourself for cyber attack. Yes, I repeat, you are inadvertently setting your organization up for cyber attack, because many of these models our staff are using on a day-to-day basis, they are free tools. And anything that is free, there is always a trade-off. The trade-off is the data, because you have a HRO person or a sales and marketing personnel, uploading some company's data into ChatGPT, for example, and is requesting to create insights out of that. The moment you do that, you have traded your company's information with the AI. And what the trade-off is that the information or the data you have uploaded to ChatGPT, Gemini, or what have you, is used to train the AI model. So when you have a policy around AI, people will be more conscious to know the danger that are inherent in uploading company data, because you have somebody, I have seen situations, because I have interacted with a whole lot of business leaders, a whole lot of them, and because they don't know the danger of some of these things, many of the company's information has been uploaded. And once you have information out there and this information gets into the hand of the wrong people, then it might become very, very detrimental for us. I just got off a call on cyber security, that is securing the cyber landscape, where we discussed a situation, particularly a report that was released by Microsoft in its cyber defense report for 2025. It says that in 2025 alone, organizations in Africa have incurred losses of over $482 million as against 193 in 2024. So this represents almost like 152% increase in the amount of losses that organizations have incurred. So with advent of AI, these cyber hackers have also upped their game. We now have issues of deepfake. We now have people cloning individuals, cloning voices, using some of these clones or deepfake outputs to approve payments and what have you. And because many of these organizations are afraid of the reputational damage, they don't disclose it. So coming back to, it's something that we really need to pay attention to. We need to create a policy or AI adoption framework for our organization. You can ask questions. I'm available if you need further clarification. I'm available to help you out. Now, coming back to our conversation, right? We cannot build a future-ready workforce if we do not have a clear blueprint of what it looks like. So this goes far beyond the simplistic fear of which job will be replaced and move into a strategic question, that is, which skill do we really need that will give us value alongside our new AI capability? So this begins with a robust skill gap analysis. As HR professionals, we are familiar with what skill gap analysis is. That is, it is a methodological process. First, in collaboration with the business leaders, what we do is that You must define what the key role in your organization will look like, particularly in the future, or maybe working with AI as we have with AI now. Then we might ask the question, what will a marketer do when AI can also generate copies and analyze campaign data? What will a HRO manager do when an ERP system can handle payroll and also handle onboarding? Once you have that future state profile, then you now assess your current team. And by assessing the current team, you are looking at what skill do they presently possess, right? Because when you are approaching this, you must adopt what we call the multifaceted approach. You are not just relying solely on the manager's assessment. You are incorporating what we call the self-assessment and a peer feedback to get a holistic view. That is a 360-degree view of the organization, where you have the manager's assessment, you have the self-assessment, then you now have the peer review feedback from colleagues and co-workers. So the gap that is between the future profile, that is the profile you are projecting your organization to possess working alongside AI, and your current reality is your strategic development roadmap. For example, a leading Nigeria bank, for example, might discover through this process that while their staff are very, very proficient in handling transactional processes, they lack the deep analytic and advisory skill that is needed to help, for example, the high net worth client navigate their complex investment landscape. Because it's not everybody. When you are talking about investment, you require a very high and deep understanding of what the industry, what the investment climate is all about. It's not just something that a novice can handle. So we might look at a role which the AI cannot fill because it requires deep expertise. This role is something that AI cannot fill. The identified gap is the gold. It now tells us precisely where to invest our training and development budget on. And we can even use AI to help us with this process. Predictive analytic tool can scan industry data and global trends to help us forecast which skills are rising in prominence, ensuring that we are also preparing not just for today, but for the business landscape, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. So the second in the framework is develop, which is building a future-ready workforce. Now, once we have identified this key gap, the next logical step for us to do is to develop our people. But one thing we must also know is that the old method of development are no longer sufficient, where we send almost everybody, we organize 2 days workshop on maybe communication. This simply will not cut it anymore. We must move towards what we call a personalized learning path. Technology today allows us to curate development journey that are specific to an individual role, their current skill level, and also their career aspiration. So this is far more engaging and effective than just creating or setting up a workshop, which more often than not is just ticking the box that we have achieved our training calendar for the year. Whether it was impactful or not remain to be seen. So the most successful organizations are those that embrace what we call a blended learning model. These combine different modes of learning to create a rich and continuous experience. For formal learning, we can maybe leverage some of those contents that are online, like the Coursera, the LinkedIn Learning, and what have you. But we must not forget the power of social learning. Think about creating also a structured mentorship program in our organization. That is by pairing senior leaders with emerging talent. This is very, very invaluable for transferring institutional knowledge and nurturing leadership skills. Now, while the junior staff gain expertise from the junior, from the senior. The senior also gain a whole lot from the junior, particularly the Gen Zs that are more tech savvy. In this regard, we call it reverse mentoring. While they gain, you also know both impact one another. So the most critical component is actually experiential learning. You don't learn critical thinking in a classroom. You learn it by solving real complex business problems. We create what I would call a tour of duty program, where maybe we might send maybe a top finance manager in one of the departments to go to maybe like the marketing department, on a project that is struggling. The skill they gain from that real world experience, which might be, or which is adaptability, cross-functional collaboration, problem solving under pressure, are skills you can never teach in a seminar. So ultimately, our goal as leaders is to instill a culture of continuous learning, not just by mere word of the mouth. Every employee see themselves as a work in progress, constantly seeking new knowledge, skills, and advancement. So this mindset is the single greatest asset for navigating all the uncertainty of the future. Is very, very important. So the focus is how to think, not just what to know. We prioritize programs that help us build problem-solving framework and mental agility over rote memorization. Now, the third one is deploy, which is designing the human AI workplace. Whether we like it or not, we are now working side by side with AI. And deploy is where the strategy truly comes to life. It is not just enough for us to develop skills if the work environment itself does not allow people to use them. We must actively redesign our workplaces and workflow to create a symbiotic relationship between the human and the AI. This means that a fundamental shift in job design must be implemented as a matter of urgency. This also means that we must move from rigid job descriptions that are just a list of tasks. Instead of us just listing out, defining roles by the outcome and the value they are expected to create. No, we must move beyond that. We must begin to look at the actual value in each of these roles rather than just listing out the task in itself. What are the value of those tasks? We are in Reliance Infosystems, where I work. We operate in over 15 countries at the moment. So there was a project that an oil and gas company in Ghana brought to us. They said that, they have an HRO solution that has the performance management module, but they want something more than that. They want an actual performance management solution, not just, and managing a solution. They want to be able to manage their performance end to end, right? End to end, where, the goal, starting with the departmental goal, right? For the year, you set out the departmental goal, then every role in the organization is able to align to the goal that has been assigned to their respective department. And it's not just waiting for the appraisal period. On the fly, as you are achieving your goal, you have a platform where you are able to report on your milestone achievement. So you are able to get maybe percentage of achievement. If your time from achieving the target, they want a notification sent to the staff that, look, what you are lagging behind in the achievement of your goal for this period, right? So instead of then they're able to effectively manage and tie every individual goal to the overall corporate KPI. And they also want a situation whereby when you come for the monthly performance review meetings, you are not just coming with PowerPoint. They want a dashboard that is able to specify where the leaders are able to see in real time how each department is going with their respective goal. And it makes sense. It makes sense. So we are currently working on that project right now. And it's with that, they want to completely redefine their performance management system and methodology. So talking about where we are, we want a complete job design by moving away from rigid job descriptions that are just a list of tasks, as earlier mentioned. Instead, we are beginning to define roles and the actual value they bring to the organization. So this empowers our people. So when AI can handle the how, which are the routine tasks, it now frees up the human talent, which are the most critical talent in every organization, to focus on the why and the what if, right? So a perfect model for this is the human in the loop system. So let's take a supply chain company, for example, maybe an FMCG company in Nigeria, and take a look at maybe a supply chain manager, right? While AI can help analyze thousands of data points, maybe shipping lane, the weather pattern, the consumer demand, to recommend an optimal inventory level, but it is the human manager who provides the crucial context. Please underline this word, context. They know a public holiday is coming that the AI might not account for, or they have a long-standing relationship with a supplier that they can leverage. The AI provides the data, then the human now provides the wisdom. That is the partnership that we should be designing in our organization. So to make this work, right, we must foster what is known as a psychological safety environment. Your team will not be creative or innovative if they are afraid of making mistakes. I repeat, your team will not be creative or innovative if they are afraid of making mistakes. So as leaders, we must have a model, we must have to model this behavior into our culture by celebrating the learning that comes with failed experiments. If you look at all the great innovators of this world, they will tell you how many times they've made mistakes, right? So this is the environment where human-centric skill truly flourish and create a competitive advantage that no algorithm or no AI model can replicate. So by practicing this, right, we now have an agile team structure, right? Agile team structure that is responsive, right? That is, because being responsive means that in every situation that the company finds itself, the organization is able to replicate itself, is able to adapt to that situation and navigate the situation irrespective of the circumstances and the challenges. Now, the fourth one is the nurture, which is fostering a human-centric culture, right? So this fourth framework, or the fourth item in the framework, is the most important step, that is to nurture. A strategy is just a document, but culture is the living, breathing environment of your organization. It is actually the force that determines whether your efforts to cultivate a human-centric skill will be sustainable or not. So this must start from the top, because the culture of every organization is defined by leadership. It must start from the top. As leaders in our organization, We must make that call today. We must lead with empathy. We must model the curiosity, the adaptability, and the emotional intelligence we expect from our team. Our actions actually speak far louder than any internal memo or maybe the banner that we keep in our recession specifying our values, our this. No, it is our action that speaks louder than all those written statements. Then we must put our money where our mouth is. So this means that we must overhaul our performance management system. We cannot say we value collaboration, but our bonus structure is 100% based on individual sales targets. It does not make sense. That is a conflicting statement. We are sending out a wrong message. Yes, a conflicting message because they don't align. You are talking about collaboration, then you are now talking about rewarding an individual because of targets. We must build a competency, or we must build on such competencies as critical thinking or emotional intelligence directly into our performance review and promotion criteria. What gets measured is rewarded, and what gets done stays. So let me give you a practical example. So imagine a project team, for example, in an advertising agency. Now, a team in that agency is able to deliver on a campaign, and that campaign was financially rewarding to the organization. Now, the old ways is for us to reward the project lead. What we are advocating is that the human-centric approach is to publicly recognize the data analyst whose critical thinking uncovered a key insight, the copywriter whose creativity shone through, and also the account manager whose empathetic client management saved the project at a very critical situation. We must celebrate the how, not just the what. So when we connect the work of our employee to a larger purpose, particularly in this AI age, because people crave meanings, they want impact, they want their contribution to be seen, to be appreciated. And once you're able to see all that and you're able to know because AI cannot steer a team, cannot motivate a team. It is the human. So this is uniquely human that needs that. This is the uniquely human quality that we need to fuel our organization to greater heights. So AI can help us optimize our processes, but it cannot inspire a team. It cannot. So by constantly connecting with our employees' daily work to the company's mission and its impact on the customers and the community, we are inherently nurturing an intrinsic motivation that will drive sustainable successes in our organization in the long run. It's very, very important that we take this into cognizance. Now, we now talk about the role of technology, which is the engine of judgment. It might seem that we have been talking only about people, but technology plays a profoundly important role in this new world order, because we call it world order. However, the role of technology has changed. Technology is not a replacement for human thoughts. It is the engine that actually powers human judgment. First, what does it do? It automates the noise. Think of all the time that your best people spent on administrative tasks, or maybe chasing data and also managing routine processes. Modern integrated system can handle all that, freeing us with precious mental bandwidth, what we call the mental bandwidth, because what a system requires to work effectively is the bandwidth of that system. Now bringing that home into people management, we are talking about the mental bandwidth, because once you are faced with all these mundane tasks, you are left with little or nothing to face the real strategic or complex issues within the organization that truly matters. So we also look at a situation whereby we have to also synthesize the signal, because technology helps us synthesize the signal. No human can analyze thousands of transactions, particularly to spot trends. You need technology to be able to go through the various data points or data the data points or data mines that we have in different within our organization. But AI can help us do that. It can help us process the vast complexities or within the complexity of data in our business and present us with key insights and potential scenarios that will help us as leaders make this informed decision. Now, the right technology, therefore, becomes the ultimate enabler. It creates the time in our schedule and also provide the clarity for us as a team to do our best. When we look at this, we are looking at a situation whereby the human think, the human strategize, the human exercises sound and wise judgment. For us to be able to make that, we require data. A situation whereby we have our data scattered across different, you have the HRO officer has he or she has his or her data in his or her laptop. Then the HRO manager also have their own data. The finance have their own data. It becomes very, very cumbersome for us to be able to maximize the full potentials of all the data points that we have within our organization. And that is why we enjoin us invest in technology. Yes, invest in technology. Many of us might say, investing in technology will inevitably, might be very, very costly and might be might be something that our organization at the moment will not be able to afford. Now, within the course of our conversation, I mentioned context. That is using the data that we have to make informed decisions. And making informed decisions means that you are able to contextualize the information at your disposal within the environment that decision will be most useful or will impact. Now, let me give us another true life example. In the course of my career trajectory, I've been able to work in 2 FMCG companies where I function as sales capability development manager in these 2 organizations. Now, if you are to use maybe just the information you generate from AI in making some decisions, you might miss some key insights in the information that you have, might not be able to get it. That is where context is very, very important. Now, by that role which I performed in the past, it afforded me the opportunity of traveling to or visiting almost all the major markets in Nigeria, or virtually all the major markets in Nigeria. I've been to them. And when I make this visit, what it enabled me to do is that I am able to get insight into the internal dynamics of this market. And by so doing, I'm able to curate the right training that will help people that are working in this market. Now, let me give us an example. When you go to a market like area market or cemetery market in Aba, it will be almost like the person is seen as insane if you are making a cash transaction of maybe like 500,000 naira or 1 million naira. You are making purchase, you are bringing cash of 1 million naira to the seller. It's insane. And once a transaction begins to go beyond maybe like 100,000, We are now moving to maybe 500, 1 million. So within the markets in Aba or Lagos, the normal thing or the conventional thing for us to do is to do transfer or make even card payment. Card payment is limited to 100,000 in most instances. So you now do transfer. But when you look at a market like Singa Market or Sambogere Market in Kano, making cash transaction of even 500 million is normal, absolutely normal. They don't take transfer. Most of the people, most of the traders in Kano, they don't take transfer. It's cash, irrespective of the amount. So somebody that does not understand these complexities or the internal dynamics of this market might just sit down and create a strategy, a uniform strategy. The person might try to paint different portraits with the same brush stroke, which at the end of the day might not work across this area. So you must put in place, or you must take into cognizance the internal dynamics of every organization and use your human judgment in making those decisions that have far-reaching implication in this organization. And you require data. And the best data you can utilize is the data that you generate within your organization. A situation whereby you have siloed data everywhere, scattered everywhere, there is no central point where this data are assessed, it becomes a problem. That is where you require technology. Then I work in an organization, Reliance Infosystems, where we've been able to create an AROP, right? An AROP that that was built, that will help us build the kind of agile, judgment-powered organization that we have been discussing. You cannot be held back by fragmented, inefficient system. You need a modern, intelligent foundation, right? That is why Opramadic is very important. Now, Opramadic ERP is a comprehensive. Sorry, this is not an advert per se, because I know based on my experience, deploying Microsoft solutions, many organizations are always faced with the budgets of acquiring that. And that is where Opramadic comes in. Opramadic is highly cost effective for any organization, irrespective of your level, whether at SME, SMB, or a very large organization, because it's a comprehensive cloud-based platform that integrates all your core business functions, right from HR to finance, to the entire supply chain, and it creates a single source of truth. That single source of truth is where we are actually looking at, because for you to be able to make that decision, you must be able to maximize the data that you have in your organization. If you want more information about this ERP, you can call on me after this conversation, then we'll discuss further. In conclusion, the paradigm has shifted. The new competitive advantage is not about who has the most information, but who can exercise the best judgment. Our edge, our sustainable success in this new age is actually, or will be found in our ability to cultivate the uniquely human skill of accountability, critical inquiry, and the contextual decision making. Yes, contextual decision making. By strategically identifying, developing, deploying, and nurturing this kind of wisdom, and by also underpinning it with smart technology, we can build organizations that are not just AI powered, but human empowered. I repeat, we can build organizations that are not just AI powered, but human empowered. The future of work will be defined by how we augment our powerful technology with our even more powerful human wisdom. The future of work will be won not by the smartest algorithm or the smartest model that you have deployed within your organization, but by the wisest team. Thank you very much as I open the floor for question and answer.
Thank you so much, Idoni, for that very, very insightful session. Someone on the chat board said, this is deep. I can imagine. It's an eye-opener for many of us, and I have my own questions that I want to ask you. Don't forget, if you want to ask questions, you can use the raise hand feature, or you can type in your questions in the chat box, but please feel free to ask questions. Idoni, I'd like to take one question or a few questions before we get more from the audience.
Okay.
So how can HR professionals strike a balance between embracing AI tools and maintaining the human touch that defines effective people management?
Yeah, that is where the synergy that we'll be talking about, whether we like it or not, AI is already within our workspace. AI is already there. And we must not allow AI define the trajectory for our organization. Because when you allow AI, that is why I talked about having an AI adoption strategy in our organization. If you don't have that, because something we always say, particularly those of us in HR, if you don't define your career, other people will define it for you, right? Except you act. That is where all these people, when you talk about office politics, you say, no, I don't want to play office politics. If you are not playing office politics is by itself is not negative. But if you are not playing it, people will define your career trajectory for you. The same way, when we are, when in our organization, when we allow, just things to chance. Like I mentioned, AI is already in our workplace. If you don't create a framework around it, AI will take over everything within our organization and we will lose control. And that is where we will now be able to identify those critical skills that are inherently human. Very, very important. We define those critical skills, nurture them, develop them, and imbibe them and make sure that they are part of our culture. If we don't do that, then we are leaving things to chance. That is my answer to that question.
Okay, so Idoni, thank you, because you just popped another question in my head. So you said identify those critical skills. What are those most critical skills, especially for HR professionals that are overlooked today? Can you just throw a lot more insight into specific skills that HR professionals need to develop for them to...
Empathy. When you talk about people management, empathy is very, very key. Empathy is putting yourself in the situation of the other person. For example, you have somebody because many times we have several high-handed managers, very high-handed. They will tell you, I don't care is what they mention every time. You bring something to them, I don't care. We must first of all understand that we are first human before we are employees. We are first human before we are employees. We have our own individual challenges that follow us to our workplace. When you show empathy, you're able to understand some of these challenges that employee faces every day and which they bring to the work environment. And these challenges can impact. So when you exhibit empathy, you're able to understand where the person is going, solve the critical issues that person might be facing, and also you're able to create that environment. I also mentioned critical reasoning and critical thinking. Yes, you might say AI has critical thinking, but the truth of the matter is that everybody is having access to this critical reasoning outputs from AI. But that area where you have to exercise that judgment, using all the information that are available to you to make some critical judgment can only be human. That is also very, very important. Rather than you just relying 100% on the output from ChatGPT. Yes, ChatGPT has given you the leverage. It has taken you from the journey, the start of the journey, to like 70%. It's now left for you to now exercise your reasoning and coming up with informed judgment using the information that you've generated from ChatGPT or any other model that you have adopted in your organization, whether Microsoft Copilot or what have you, in making informed decisions. That's critical because you should be able to situate, like I mentioned, contextualization is very important. You're able to situate the output you've received from ChatGPT, situate it to the current situation in your organization. I have seen situations where some organizations, they are recruiting for consultants. They will tell you that they don't need consultants that uses ChatGPT. Because if they want outputs or something that ChatGPT can give them, they already have it. But they are looking for that touch, that they want you to be able to situate, understand the challenges in their organization, and come up with a solution that will solve their unique problem. You can have two organizations in the same industry, but they have different processes, they have different challenges, they operate in different environments, despite the fact that they are within the same industry. So you must be able to situate yourself, embed yourself, immerse yourself into the situation, understand all the nitty-gritties, understand all the data that are available, understand all the data points, and come up with a solution. And you need that human wisdom, that expertise, which only human can possess in coming up with a solution that is best fit for that particular organization.
Okay, thank you, Idoni, for that response. But I want to just ask, so for organizations now, how can we then be intentional about designing training programs that cultivate these things, empathy, critical thinking, collaboration among employees?
So that is where we come in. That is talking about personalized training. Personalized training for individuals. You don't gone are those days where you just create one fit all, you adopt one fit all training approach to individual. Now, let me tell you, modern tools, right? Modern tools in our organization, particularly when you are using Microsoft 365, you have some Viva solutions, what we call Viva Suite, Viva Connection, Viva Insights, Viva Pulse, within some of these tools. So what it does is that as you are working inside of those productivity tools, it is taking data from what you are doing, particularly when you have an enterprise-grade AI. Now, different between the open source ChatGPT that we are using and an enterprise-grade AI solution like Microsoft Copilot, what it means is that the data it generates is confined within your office environment. Now, some of these productivity tools, they have AI embedded in them. Now, if I am an analyst that uses Excel all the time, as I am using Excel, the AI that are embedded in some of these solutions is taking notes of my use pattern. If my work requires that I use Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and any other tools that are AI enabled, it takes cognizance of how you are using this thing. It's able to curate, to tell you, look, by the pattern you've created by your usage in the last 1 year, you are lacking in this area. You are lacking in that area. You are lacking in this area. And we also mentioned that if you are to curate, you understand individuals, you talk to them, you interact with them, you are able to understand the gaps based on the profile, an ideal profile, in quote, ideal profile that you have created, which you want your organization to attain. So by your interaction with them, you are able to identify as a manager that is objective, that have eyes, that have that expertise. You're able to identify some of the gaps that the employee is exhibiting. And by so doing, you curate an intervention. Intervention can be in form of training, in terms of mentorship, in terms of coaching. It can be anything, right? It can be maybe the person, you are saying the person on maybe like internship from one department to another. That might just be the solution. That is where personalized learning now comes in, and you adopt a blended learning approach rather than just a workshop or a conference that at the end of the day might not even meet its objective.
All right, thank you, Idoni. Let's take this question from Victoria Azariah. Please go ahead with your question. Okay, while we're waiting for Victoria's question, I just want to ask one question based on what you said. So you talked about building a framework to guide the use of AI in organizations. So I want to ask, what are some of the components or features of this framework? What are the things that, we should consider while building this framework?
So in building the framework for AI adoption in our organization, we must understand what the framework will contain is the responsible use of AI. Responsible use of AI. Now, what responsible use of AI? Because then in organizations, we have data classification. You should be able to classify your data, classify them. Because many of us do not understand what data classification is all about. You will be able to classify data that are sensitive, moderately sensitive, or highly sensitive, right? If you are and if you must feed the framework can contain that some information that if you must use ChatGPT, it must not contain those data points that are classified highly sensitive, right? So if people know that, look, if I feed my company data into ChatGPT, I have opened the door for people to understand what that data privacy has been breached. When they know, they will exercise the use of this open source AI model responsibly. Then when like I mentioned, data classification, many people do not know what sensitive data are. The data they can share with people outside of organization or not. Then that also brings us to the point where we have enterprise grade AI. Because some organizations, they completely ban the use of open source ChatGPT inside of their organization because they know the danger. So what they now do is to deploy those enterprise grade AI solution like Microsoft Copilot. What it does is that all the information that you interact with the AI is confined within your organization. Those information or those data are not used in the training of the AI, right? Because they are not uploaded to the public server. Rather, they are confined to the environment that has been created for you because you are a paying customer. But if you are using the free one, the trade-off is that you are trading off your data to be used to train the model. Then that is the day you cannot use it free of charge. So when you have a clear-cut policy on how sensitive information are within your organization, on how people are to use this ChatGPT, Gemini, and what have you responsibly, then you are beginning to create the awareness. They now know that there are consequences. There are consequences if I am caught, because as it is now, it's free for all. That's the truth. It's free for all, and you can't blame them. You don't blame them if they don't know. They don't know the danger. They don't know the implication. So just like creating a strategy is like coming up with a policy, just the same way we have different HRO policies that guide the behavior and conduct of employee within our organization. It's the same way as creating a policy around responsible use of AI within the organization.
Thank you so much, Idoni. Victoria, are you able to unmute now to ask your question?
I think
okay.
the admin. Okay, all right.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me, sir?
We can hear you.
Okay, good evening. So
Good evening.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you so much, sir, for the section. It's really an insightful, it's like a masterpiece. Now, down to my question. First of all, I want to find out, is there any way one can introduce the chatbot? Now, I work with the healthcare sector. How can this be introduced to the facility in a way that patients can easily ask questions without interfacing with anyone? Then secondly, you spoke about customer service, how the chatbots can be the one to speak while everyone is so busy doing one or two things. They can respond faster. That's one question. Then secondly, um, now how can one do all this without going against the patient's privacy? When you mean the patient, protecting the confidentiality of patients, because there are some history or information concerning patient that you're not to be let out there. Then thirdly, you spoke about empathy. Now you're dealing with a patient as a human resource representative, you're dealing with a patient, and you know that this patient really is not um, telling you the truth. Like you just sensed it. But this patient is trying to prove to you that it's saying the truth and trying to like coil you to believe in them. Now you're trying to fight that empathetic nature in you, but as well you don't want to you're trying to defend your organization in as much as, now I'm talking in respect to bill. Probably a patient wants to pay bill and is telling you they don't have. Deep down inside you know that they have, but they want to use their empathetic nature. Oh, please assist us and all that and all that. How can you, as an HR, work on that nature? You're saying yes, as an HR, you need to, but to an extent, some persons can abuse it or override it. How can one protect that aspect? Thank you, sir.
Okay, let me answer your question. Now, when I started the conversation, I said that we are moving from with AI adoption now, we are moving from from the era of conversational or with conversational AI to the era where we actually build agents. Now, we've actually, in the company I work, we've actually built some custom solutions for organization. For example, HRO, we we have plenty. I'm very sure, despite the fact that we have all our HRO policies and everything, our staff do not even know the contents of those policies. They don't know. That's the truth. Except maybe some once in a while we do maybe sections where we pick one of the policy, maybe something like an awareness section. We pick a policy, talk about it, and that's all. Then even when we have an intranet is something that is confined within our organization. Then we have a repository where we keep all these documents, right? Many, even our staff do not go. But what we've been able to achieve with agentics AI is that AI requires data. We've been able to create models within our organization, and the knowledge base is some of these policies that are within our organization. Then from the employees' self-service points, or maybe that either on their mobile phone or on their laptop, they're able to call up, just the same way when you call up ChatGPT, they're able to call up and ask specific questions within your organization, right? Specific based on the knowledge base that you've created. Maybe you fed the agent with all the policies in your organization. You fed the agent with all the required documents or that person should have access to. And again, too, it also relies on what we call user role-based access. Role-based access. That is, people only have access to what you want them to have access to. That is defined when you are creating the agent, right? So those information or those documents, they are not supposed to have access to. When they prompt, because they converse with the agent that you created in, just say when you chat with ChatGPT, it's the same thing, using natural language. But instead of going general, they get information from within your organization. So you can create an agent, a HRO agent, where employee can probe for HRO policies, or you can even ask, how much of my leave is left for the year, right? So because the information is there for the agent to get from, if it's report on the screen that Idoni, you have used 5 days of your annual leave. What is left is 15 days. If I am entitled to 20 days in a year, for example, so you're able to create agent within your organization and create that AI effect. And you can only do that if you have data, right, that are not siloed everywhere. You have a data point, a central point of truth where these data are stored, and the agent, you are using it as the knowledge base. That is one. Now, you talk about patient privacy. That also brings me to that question I also answered. Now, you have role. I mentioned that most of these agents, when you are creating the agent, it is role-based. Only people, maybe somebody in a record, will have access when they probe for this record. Only people in record will have access to it, or somebody that has elevated access. You are giving that person elevated access based on the role he or she performed. They should have access to this. That is where you're creating. So the patient privacy, whether, no matter how we look at it, there are people that are authorized to see those data. But when you have an agent created within your organization, it makes searching for some of this information, or you have a solution with your organization, it makes searching for some of this information easier. And you, because of the signed confidentiality, they signed confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement within that. So people that are authorized to have access to this information, they continue to have access to this information, right, based on the role access that you have defined within the organization. Now, concerning empathy, yes, I can understand. You see, Nigerians, if I'm to digress a little, many people in Nigeria, let me say 90%, right, that people that borrow money, they actually borrow money with the intention of not paying back. People borrow money in Nigeria with the intention of not paying back. That just is simple truth. So the same way, when patients come to the hospital, me and my wife, we have a dental clinic. We have a dental clinic that we run somewhere in Oregon. So we understand some of these things. People come, they will push this thing, they will tell you that you are charging them maybe like 100,000. They'll tell you that 100,000 that you are charging, we've not seen even something close to that in the last 5 years. That because you must show some level of empathy, and you must also understand some things. And that is where the hypocritical law, the oath that doctors sign, that is the first thing, is to save life. And when it becomes, because all these hospitals, they are not charity. They need money. The cost of operation has become very, very high. It is what the patient pay that is used to run this hospital. So they don't understand. So you have to create a clear line on where to show empathy and when to be very, very firm. First of all, yes, when you now you as an organization, you are trying to at least break even. You are trying to collect something that will help you run the organization, because nobody want to set up a hospital and tomorrow the clinic runs down. No, you must be able to strike a balance. So the first thing, striking a balance, and the next thing is be called that because of money you refuse to save life, right? So that is where you now bringing that human judgment. Should I create? Should I create? Where will be that psychological safety? Where will it come in? As much as you have people that will pay, there are people that are high paying, people that will pay. Then you also make provision for people that will definitely, because whether you like it or not, they will definitely come. There are people that will tell you that they cannot pay. So that you're able to strike a balance. Use the people that are paying, make provision for people that will not pay. Else, you might just be playing with your mind. That just simple truth. And that is where that critical judgment point will come in. Ability to contextualize your environment and come up with a decision that is win-win. Because if you don't exercise some level of discretion, and it goes out in the public that your organization or your hospital is only concerned about making money, it might create a very huge reputational damage that even the money that the patient would have paid might not even be enough to even cure that damage or that has been created within the environment, because you operate within an environment. So it's about exercising judgment and coming up with something very, very important. That is that balance. I don't know if I was able to answer your question. Victoria, are you there? You are muted. Okay.
Okay, Idoni, thank you so much. So in 60 seconds, right, I need you to please take this last question, but also share your final thoughts. Now, we know that a lot of HR professionals are anxious about AI and the fact that AI might be replacing some roles. What mindset shifts or strategies would you recommend to HR professionals? So just take this as well as your final thoughts for us.
Yes, the mind shift you must have is that the traditional role that we used to execute, there is a dynamic change. You cannot longer confine yourself to just HRO. If you're an HRO person alone, you can't afford to do that. You can't just afford to do that. You must identify some of those other areas your skills might be valuable. Like, I have been in HRO for over 18 years now, right? But I am more known in technology than even HRO, because it was a conscious effort that I decided to take. And I'm also, like I also mentioned earlier, I have also been a sales capability development manager. So I understand sales. Then when it now comes to in terms of fleet management, I am there. I can. So you should not just restrict yourself. You must understand the mood in the room and know that when the taste of the palm wine changes, the drinking pattern must also change. You cannot afford to drink the same palm wine that was freshly brewed yesterday with the same approach. You adopt one that has passed through the night, because we must understand that if we fail to move with time, look at, thank God for information. We have so much democratization of information around us. Look at those areas where we are most prominent, those areas that we can tap. You cannot just afford, I am a HRO generalist. What is HRO generalist? Right? Or what is HRO's? It doesn't cut in anymore. You must look beyond. You must be a business leader, no longer an HRO leader, right? You must be a business leader. Many times we keep saying that we want to occupy a seat at the table. If you are occupying the seat at the table, what are you bringing to the table? Right? What are you bringing to the table? You're able to speak the language of the business. You're able to understand the business. You must go beyond HRO. So what it means is that we must be agile. We must be agile in everything that we do. We must go beyond just HRO and adopt. We must also understand that whether we like it or not, AI has come to stay, and a whole lot of jobs will be displaced. So you must read the room. Read the room and know where you fit in. And that is where that judgment, critical judgment skills and ability comes in. You must be able to exercise. Look at all the indices. Look at all the indicators, the dynamics, and ask yourself, where do I fit in? If in the next 1 or 2 years, will I still have a job? Only you know yourself. That's the truth.
Wow. Thank you so much, Idoni. What an amazing and insightful session. If you know you learned something today, just with one word, I'd like you to go to the chat box and put one word, what you have learned, one word celebrating Idoni for this very impactful session. Thank you so much, Idoni. On behalf of our global president, the board of trustees, the Global Advisory Council Management Committee, and the Learning and Capacity Development Committee of AHRP, I want to extend our deepest appreciation to you for this powerful and very practical session. Thank you so much for reminding us that while technology automates processes, it's the human touch that drives purpose, innovation, and sustainable success. Thank you so much, Idoni, for taking out time to share this insight with us. Okay, before we go, I'd like to all right, thank you. Before we go, I'd like to just remind us again, do not forget, our end of year party comes up again at the end of November. So please, 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 please make sure that you go and register. Make sure that you are a part of it. If you snooze, you lose.